The Panama Canal is probably the most important man-made waterway on Earth. It's an 82-kilometre artificial waterway in Panama that connects the Atlantic Ocean with the Pacific Ocean and is a key international trade channel that was possibly one of the most difficult and ambitious engineering projects in history. Before the Panama Canal was built, ships travelling between the east and west coasts of the American continent had to go around Cape Horn in South America. That voyage was 8,000 nautical miles longer than going through the canal. Today, almost the entire shipping industry is moulded around the shape of the canal. France began work on the canal in 1881, but stopped because of engineering problems and a high worker mortality rate. Health and safety in the 1800s left a lot to be desired. The United States took over the project in 1904 with support from the newly independent Panama, and at times more than 40,000 people were employed on the project from all around the world, with around 20,000 people losing their lives while making the canal, mostly due to diseases like malaria. And finally, after 34 years of construction, it was opened in 1914. From 1914 to 1979, the Panama Canal was controlled solely by the United States, until control was eventually passed back to Panama as recently as 1999. The length of the Panama Canal from shoreline to shoreline is about 40 miles. But from the Atlantic to the Pacific, the length is a whopping 50 miles. The canal and Lake Gatun which it passes through are not at sea level, so to help ships which pass through, canal locks had to be constructed at either end to lift ships up to Gatun Lake. Gatun Lake is an artificial lake created to reduce the amount of excavation work required for the actual canal. It's 26 metres above sea level, so the locks then lower the ship at the other end back down to sea level so they can continue on their journey. The average transit time is about 10 hours from one end of the canal to the other. In 2013, there were nearly 213 million metric tonnes of cargo carried through the canal. Larger ships are guided through locks by electric towing locomotives, which help to keep the ships centred in the lock. It's these locks that determine the size of a lot of ships used in cargo transportation, as any ship passing through has to be between 1,200 feet long and 268 feet wide. Before 2016, the width was limited to 106 feet, and 50% of the old locks users were exactly as wide as this limit, suggesting they were built specifically for this task. When the locks widened in 2016, there were some adverse effects however. New Jersey, for instance, had to spend $1.7 billion to raise Bayonne Bridge by a few metres to let these bigger ships port in Newark. At the same time, many other ports from Miami to New York had to spend billions of dollars to accommodate these new, bigger ships. By using the canal, ships sailing between Europe and East Asia or Australia can save as much as 2,000 nautical miles. But that saving comes at a price. The canal charges around $90 per 20-foot shipping container, and with most ships stacked to the walls with cargo, it can easily cost somewhere in the hundreds of thousands of dollars per ship per journey through. Some of the largest ships can cost up to $1 million per trip. Sometimes those big ships find themselves unable to cross the canal though, due to restrictions in the weight limits imposed by the canal operators when there is a water shortage. When the canal locks drain, the water is spent and runs off downstream to the sea. This could cause a catastrophe at times of drought. Despite this, the Panama Canal remains both key to world trade and is one of the most ambitious engineering feats ever attempted.